of 1781. So it's a nice little place to visit if you want to pay homage to the guys. Arnold in Virginia, he just didn't have the troops to really defend. Looks like it's coming mostly from the left. Some of the dragoons coming back. Trying to block people too. Now, after the engagements along New Garden Road, the Delawares fell back about where Battleground Avenue is now. That's where they actually came. Okay. There goes the first cannon shot. Now, the actual battle began at this point with about an hour-long cannonade between 2 American guns and 2 British guns. We don't have that many guns, so it'll be simulated today. And Cornwallis, while he was deploying his men into the lines that he wanted, his cannons engaged the American guns. And it looks like they're advancing. Now you see some of the troops in the center redeploy.
Oh, no, I said these guns and things don't have anything real. But the original cannons that they used at the real battle, yes. This is all make sound.
Yeah, at least when I hold the mic, cut off some of that wind sound. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can see the American gun coming down the hill pretty much to the center, which would be on our left. He lost about half of his company in that first volley. British are continuing the advance. Americans are getting off a very shaky second volley. They fired their 2 shots and they are beginning to withdraw. You can see the mostly North Carolina militia withdrawing now. They fired their 2 shots. They did their job. They hurt the Brits. And now the British are reforming at the first line, trying to figure out how they want to advance. And you have to imagine that path coming down through there as being New Garden Road. Now at this point, when the British begin to advance again, things are going to get confused. Now what was happening at this point was the Hessians and the 71st on the south side of New Garden Road were chasing after, and others pretty much in the vicinity of the cemetery itself. They're coming this way in the real battle. On the north side of New Garden Road, the 23rd Regiment, Royal Welch Fusiliers, and 33rd are coming up on them from two different directions. They were literally fighting back to back, firing in two directions. But what the Americans don't know, if you'll look above the Americans, you'll see where the guards are coming down the hill on their flank. You can see the redcoat troops moving down on the flank, and now they've realized that they're in a bad spot, and they are prudently leaving the area. So you'll notice they were taking on the Hessians. They got themselves into a line. The guards came through the woods, engaged, and that's when, but you see they didn't break and run. They didn't do like the initial militia did. They're falling back in good order. They basically regained their line, but now they've realized, hey, we're in a bad spot here. It's time for us to pull back. So the American troops are now withdrawing. They figure they've done their bit. And it was no dishonor to run away once you'd done your job. Live to fight another day. Now in this case, they're going to reform, and you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit and imagine these guys looking like the other guys that have been on the field the whole time, because these are now representing the 2nd Maryland. And remember now, the 2nd Maryland, Green troops, first battle. And so now they're no longer militia, they are now the 2nd Maryland. And the British don't even realize they don't have anything to shoot at anymore. Like I said, still stuff going on to the south. That would be the guards that had come to the rescue of the Von Boses. They're trying to get together. If you look to the far left, you can see the Von Boses basically reorganizing. And the guards had also been heavily engaged, and they're moving through the woods on the left. Now this would be the 1st Battalion of the Brigade of Guards. The 2nd Battalion would be on our right, but they're still back in the woods someplace like the 23rd trying to find their way forward. The only British in the vicinity of the right flank over here is Webster's 33rd Regiment. Now the British on the right are still trying to get organized. Now bear in mind, everybody's broken up, separated. They don't know where their senior command is. Totally confused on the British side right now. And again, there were some breaks like this in the actual battle. Body's coming. They don't necessarily know who or how many, but they know they're coming. 33rd Regiment. The British guns coming in. He thinks he's got something to deal with here. So we see Webster's brigade advancing on the right. And what happened next?
One person fell down. Oh no, a few more. I hate to be one of the first ones to die. We had like 2 casualties.
And as you can see, when that cannon fired, it attrited them.
Oh, you see someone getting carried. Yeah.
Now, if you look at the British line on the left of this group, you'll see some men with white feathers in their hats. The troops with the white feathers in their hats are in the uniform of the 23rd Regiment, the Royal Welch Fusiliers. In the real battle, they weren't here. They got hit pretty hard, so Imagine that coming out of 4 cannons and a couple of thousand muskets. And you can see why they wore bright colored uniforms, because after a while the smoke gets heavy, it's hard to identify friend from foe. Black powder makes a lot of smoke. Now the 33rd is taking a severe beating.
Really?
Colonel Webster himself is wounded in the leg. Although it didn't seem like such a bad wound at the time, about a week from now, he's going to be dead. Colonel Webster will die somewhere in the vicinity of Elizabethtown, North Carolina, or Fort Bragg, somewhere down there. We don't know where he's buried. But the 1st Maryland's keeping up the fire on the Webster's troops that are withdrawing. They have damaged the 33rd. And they haven't taken much hurt themselves yet. At this point in the battle, the 33rd had some men that were trying to keep up the fire. There's a ravine where they could get some shelter. And they tried to keep up some fire, hoping that the 23rd would come up. But they were trying to get on the flank of Webster, get into an oblique flanking move on him. Yep. They're going to put some flanking fire into what's left of Webster's 33rd Regiment. And now what happens? And what happens now is something called target fixation. They are very, very focused on taking on what's left of Webster's brigade here. They have essentially formed an up on our left. And bear in mind, this is the 1st Battalion of the Brigade of Guards. Looks like the artillery. The artillery on the left apparently is out of ammunition, or their guns malfunctioning. And now the Guards are approaching the 2nd Maryland. Now remember, the 2nd Maryland, this is their first fight. This is their first battle. They're not well-trained troops. And the 2nd Maryland breaks. The Guards charge. Now, in the real world, there was a much greater separation between the troops. Use a little imagination here. They don't even know about the 1st Maryland guys yet. They're coming forward. They've driven the 2nd Maryland away. Now, these guys are pretty much whipped. They've been marching since 3 o'clock this morning. Some of these fellas have been fighting battles all the way from the Guilford College area to here, and then all the way through the woods here. Now you see some men in Scotch bonnets there representing the 71st Highland Regiment. In the actual battle, the 71st was still lost somewhere in the woods. Now the 1st Maryland has noticed them and made a good maneuver to refuse their flank. And now you got the 1st Maryland against the Brigade of Guards. Most of the troops in this particular detachment are in the uniform of the 7th Royal Fusiliers and the 71st Highland Regiment. And here come the cavalry, Washington's Dragoons. William Washington's cavalry. Guards, you're in trouble. Uh-oh.
Tight spot, boys. Tight spot.
Now, at this point, William Washington's cavalry attacked the guards, had a melee with them. Now, in the actual battle, they closed and there was hand-to-hand fighting between the guards and the 1st Maryland. We will not simulate that because that can get dangerous. People get hurt when you start swinging muskets around and going at each other. The guards actually attacked. Now, sometime right about now would be when Wallace showed up, saw the cavalry there, realized that he was in danger, that one of his cannons was in danger, and he ordered the guns to fire into the cavalry. But they also went into both. The guards as well as into the 1st Maryland. Use your imagination. They'd be fighting hand to hand. The cannon just fired. The British gun just fired. Now what happened at this point, they started to separate because when the British guns started firing, it inflicted casualties on both British and American. And about this time, General Greene is looking over to his right, and he's seeing the 23rd Regiment, which was reformed in the woods. It's approaching on the right. On the left, he's seeing the 71st Regiment coming through the woods, and he's realizing that it's probably about time to save his army, because it's getting out of control for him. The Hessian Regiment von Boza is moving up on the left. They're representing the 71st that was coming out at this point. These are Hessian troops in the blue uniforms. And General Greene decided that he wants to save his regulars. He doesn't know what's happened with his militia. He's seen the 2nd Maryland break. He's going to save his 1st Maryland and his Delaware troops. The 23rd's coming at him from the right. He's going to pull his troops out. It's not a rout. So we see the 1st Maryland withdrawing in order, in good order. They had to abandon the cannon. You see the 23rd coming out on the right.